For the last problem set, we'll be focusing on the vinyl that will be on Plan 100. So we have multiple areas where we have vinyl. We have vinyl for our fascia. We have vinyl for our soffits. We will need to calculate the F channel that will go around the soffits and then the square footage of the soffits themselves. We then will look at the vinyl starters that we need for all of the actual vinyl siding. And then we will need to look at the J channel that will go around the windows and then the trim that will be below the windows. Once we've calculated all of that, we can then figure out the vinyl siding that will be on the entire structure. So for number 14, this is where we're looking at the lineal foot of fascia cover that will be on our fascia or subfascia boards. We calculated the subfascia previously when we were looking at the 1x6 material. So this is a piece of trim material that will go around the perimeter of the roof. And so when we are going to calculate the fascia that will cover all of the subfascia, again, it is the same thing. It is the perimeter of the roof. We've already calculated this in our review problem set in number 6. So if we look at that, it is simply the 139.25 feet. And that is our final answer for the lineal feet of fascia. That's our easy one. For number 15, now we're going to be looking at our soffits. And the first thing we need to look at is the F channel. So the F channel will be used to essentially hold the piece of soffit in place, and it basically snaps into this F channel. Where this goes is essentially the outline or the exterior perimeter of the soffits themselves, which is where our overhangs are. Now, depending on how the bird box is framed, it will determine how these are calculated. So you need to make sure that you're paying attention how these are actually structured. So for ours, we have our, for our structure, we have our gable ends, and then we have our overhang on either side. The horizontal overhangs will come out the full extension into the gable overhang. And then our gable overhang actually stops at the end of the top of the wall system, so it does not extend past. It could go either way, and again, it all depends on how this is framed. We've covered this in lecture, so make sure you refer back to the PowerPoint slides to see how the two different ways the bird box can be framed to help determine this. But for ours, again, the horizontal extends all the way into our gable overhang. So the first one we want to calculate then is our main overhang, or again, as it's sometimes called, the eave overhang. So here we need to know the roof length, which is 38 feet, and we need to know what that main overhang is, which we know is 2 feet, given to us in our specs and on the plans. It's just a perimeter calc at this point. So it is 2 times the 38-foot length plus 2 times the 2-foot overhang length gives us a total of 80 feet. We just multiply by 2 because we want to make sure we get both sides of the house. We have the main overhang on this side as well as this side over here. So we have a total of 160 feet for our main overhangs. But we also have our gable overhangs we need to calculate. So here we need to know what our top chord is but it's the top chord without the overhang, which is what we calculated in number 9. That was the 13.7032 feet. And then we also need to know what our gable overhang is. Per our plans and specs, that is 1 foot. So again, it's another perimeter calc. It is 2 times 13.7032 feet plus 2 times the 1 foot, and we get 29.4064. The difference here is what we just calculated is only one of these areas. So we need to multiply by 4 to get the 2 that are on this side of the gable, and then the other 2 on the other side of the house. So we multiply this number, the 29.4064 times 4, and we get 117.626. So our total then of all F channel is the 160 from the main overhang, which we calculated up here, plus the 117.626, and we end up with 277.626, or roughly 278 feet of F channel that needs to go around our soffits. Next up, we need to calculate the square footage of our soffits. So in number 16, we're looking at the square footage of the soffits. Now that we calculated the F channel that will go up around the perimeter, we have to fill in with the soffit material that we're going to be using. And this will also be vinyl soffit. We already have our numbers for the main overhang. We have our 38 feet, that is the roof length. And we have the 2 feet, that is our main overhang. And for our gable, we have the 13.7032 feet, which was our top chord without the overhang factored in. And we have the 1 foot, which was our gable overhang. So I've written it out just to show you that we've already gotten all of these numbers. We just used them when we were calculating our F channel, but instead of calculating a perimeter, we're looking at a square footage. So we simply multiply. 38 times 2 gives us 76 square feet. And here we have 13.7032 square feet. We have 2 sides of our main. So we have 152 square feet for our main overhangs. And again, we need to multiply by 4. So we have 54.8128 square feet for the gable portion. We simply need to add these together to get our total square footage. So the 152 plus the 54.8128 gives us 206.813, or roughly 207 square feet of soffit area where we need to get material. So in 15 we calculated the F channel that will hold the soffit material, and in 16 we actually calculated the actual soffit material we need. 17, we are looking at the vinyl starter. So when you are putting vinyl siding on a house, you need typically a metal piece that will be the starter. So this is something that will help secure it then to the bottom of the house, so it just doesn't rip right off. So on our plans, we just saw that we have brick on the front elevation of our house, and it only goes halfway up the house. So for our starter, we can go ahead and use our perimeter number. So even though perimeter, spell it correctly, of 124 feet. So even though we have the brick on the front side, and we'll use this drawing here for our J channel here in a second, but we'll have a starter strip that goes along the bottom of both of our side elevations as well as the rear elevation. But for the front elevation, even though we're not going to have it on the bottom because of the brick, it simply moves up, and we'll need the starter strip halfway up the house because we do have siding up top. Now we could subtract out for all of the windows and doors that are on the front elevation, but for now we're going to keep the number simple, and we might need some extra anyway, so we're going to just leave it as the full perimeter of the house. Makes our calculations a lot simpler. So then for number 18, we're looking at the J channel. And what the J channel will do is on the sides and top of each one of our doors and windows, it gives a trim edge, a finished piece for the siding to slide into as we're installing it. So we don't put it on the bottoms. We'll have a separate trim piece that we use for that, but we do need it on the top and sides of each one of our openings. Here we need to make sure that we're paying attention to this front elevation again, because we do not put this J channel where we have brick. So we already determined that this height, that is from the top of the door down to where the brick is, that is the same as the rough opening height of our C windows. We don't actually have to subtract out anything like we did for the brick, because with the brick we actually wanted to know what this dimension is down here, but for this J channel we want to know what's up top, which we already know is the 3'10", so we don't actually have to do any calculation. We just need to remember that for the B window and for the front door we use the 3'10" for our number instead of the full height that is provided for each one. So we have quite a few that we need to account for, but we can simply run out our numbers and make sure that we do take into account all of them. Make sure that you use your rough opening dimensions when you are doing your calculations. So if we first look at our doors, for the front, this is the 3'2", that is the width. And again, we want to make sure that we do two sides, and this is going to be the 3'10", that is the C windows, not the 6'10", that is the full front door, because the bottom portion is in brick. But for our side door, the 2'10", we do use the 6'10", because the full height of our side door is in the vinyl. So it's only the 3'10" for the front door, but it is the full 6'10" for the side door. Next up for our windows, we have our A window, 5'1/2" inch for the width, 2 times the 4'8" for our height. Our B, 7'5½" times the 2 times the 3'10", again because the bottom portion is in brick. The C windows, 5'1/2" inch plus, oops, sorry, these are supposed to be plus signs, plus the 2 times the 3'10", and our D window, 7'5½" inches plus 2 times the 4'1". That is the height. So I'm just going to put some stars to show that the 3'10" on the front door, it is not the full height. Same with the B windows. Both are the same as the C height. So it is the C height when we're doing our calculations. So it's the same one in all of these. So it's the 1 width plus 2 times our height. And if we go through and calculate all those out, we end up with exactly 136 feet, surprisingly. One thing, sorry, I forgot to note, is that there are 5 C windows. So that will make a difference in your calculations. So make sure you do multiply your C number by 5. So you do come up with 136 feet exactly. So we've calculated the J channel that goes around the top and the sides of our windows. Now for number 19, we want to look at the bottom of our windows. So we're looking at the vinyl trim that will go below all of our windows. However, we're only going to do that in the windows that are in vinyl. So we have our B window here that is in brick, and the bottom of our C windows, they are sitting on top of that brick, so we aren't going to use this vinyl trim. So we simply have the A window, that is the 5 foot 1/2 inch. We have C windows, we have 3 of those that are 5 foot 1/2 inch. And we have our D window, that is 7 feet 5.5 inches. So our D window is our wider one, our tall one is our A window, and these 3 are our C windows. So we simply add the rough opening widths, it's bottom only, 27 feet, 7.5 inches, or you can write it in decimal, 27.625 feet. If you want to write 28 feet, rounded up, that would be perfectly acceptable as well. So the last one we're going to calculate in number 20 is all of the vinyl siding. We could go through and calculate each side separately. There's multiple ways we could do it, but what we've already done is calculate a lot of the components that we need, and we can simply subtract out to see what is remaining. We calculated the area of the house wrap, that is the entire perimeter of our gables and our exterior walls. What we can do is subtract out the openings, which we've already figured. We can subtract out the brick, which we've already figured. And lastly, we have that small area that is covered by the overhang. We could subtract that out as well, and that will give us the proper numbers that we need. So if we look at our square foot for our house wrap, that is where we had 1224.792. Then, if we want to subtract, we will look at our openings. This is what we refreshed our memory and our calculations on in the first problem set from number 7. That was our 226.42. We also have our brick that we calculated, and that square footage was 144.785. Make sure you don't use the number that does not include the subtractions for the openings, because if you use the 160.5 number, then you won't have, you'll double count the openings since we've already subtracted the openings here. So you have to use your brick number that subtracts out the openings. And lastly, the part that is covered by the overhang it is 48 square feet. So if we take our 1225, subtract out the 227, the 145, and the 48, we end up with 805.587, or roughly 806 square feet of vinyl siding that we have for the structure. So again, there's multiple ways of calculating that vinyl siding. We can add up different parts and pieces, but since we've already calculated all of these other components, it's a lot easier to just subtract out from what we already have. And that concludes how to calculate the vinyl siding, and we have already calculated the brick and the other exterior materials for Plan 100.